Last month, someone close to Nicholas Cruz called an FBI tip line to report his disturbing social media posts, his desire to kill people, his gun ownership, and even his potential for carrying out a school shooting. No one ever followed up.
This is the nightmare where, you look back and identify that there was perhaps information in your holdings that could have saved lives. I mean, it is the nightmare scenario. The Bureau apologized and promised an investigation, but it also failed to connect a separate tip about Cruz, that one about a social media post with his name on it, saying, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." And tonight, the local sheriff said his force received about 20 calls about Cruz over the past several years.
We have uncovered at the Broward Sheriff's Office that we've had approximately 20 calls for service over the last few years regarding the killer.
That what appear to be warning signs were missed and that Cruz was able to buy an assault rifle has made at least some students angry and determined to bring about change. Stephen D'Souza has more on what may be a new force to be reckoned with in Florida.
Hold on, I got to talk to Norway.
In a wounded community crying out for change, 17-year-old David Hogg has become its voice to the world.
What time do you guys need to meet up? Because I'm going on Anderson Cooper tonight.
That school shootings have happened.
His mission to toughen gun control laws began while hiding in his classroom Wednesday, when he recorded a plea to the country.
I call on the legislators of this country to take action and stop this from happening.
I knew that if I was going to die, I wanted our voices to carry on.
He is angry, not at the shooter, but at the political system he says allowed the massacre to happen. The son of an FBI agent, he wants to break the cycle in America of mass shootings, cries for gun control, then nothing. With congressional elections in the fall, he sees opportunity.
And that's why I'm calling on Americans to get out and vote during these midterms. Get out there, see where your congressman stands on these issues, but follow them up and make sure they actually follow through.
He's not alone. Today, students flooded social media with the hashtags Never Again and Never Again MSD, the initials of their school. They called out Congress and the president for inaction on gun control.
I would say we're ready.
Cameron Caskey started that campaign. He won't be old enough to vote in November, but he says that won't stop him from organizing others.
Our town just took 17 bullets to the heart. And all we can do is push.
Caskey's father, Jeffrey, loves the student zeal, but says based on America's history with past school shootings, they face an uphill battle.
I mean, I hate to be cynical, but really, frankly speaking, if Sandy Hook didn't do it, I don't know how this will.
Former Republican Congressman David Jolly says these voices must not be allowed to fade when the country's attention turns elsewhere.
It's a powerful message. I think as an adult, as an American involved in politics and the media, that's why those tweets, that's why the purity of their emotion can be turned into action.
10th grader Annabelle Claproot is raising money to take her demands directly to Florida state legislators.
I don't want someone to do or go through what happened to me ever again, and I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen. And if I need to get out there and go to Tallahassee and speak for myself and speak for people that were in this, then I will.
Elected officials are taking notice, and the students are ready to press on, undeterred by past failures.
This can be our turning point as a country and say, we're not going to allow this and accept this as the new reality, because this is not the America I know.
All right, so we made it out.
A hope he says that this time something will finally change. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Parkland, Florida.
Well, further proof the kids have a tough job ahead. One of their own senators, Marco Rubio, is already saying he doesn't think tougher gun laws would help.
If someone's decided I'm going to commit this crime, they'll find a way to get the gun to do it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a law that makes it harder. It just means understand, to be honest, it isn't going to stop this from happening. You could still pass the law, per se, but you're still going to have these horrible attacks.
A position you may not find surprising. Keep in mind, Rubio has received more than $3 million in political contributions from the NRA. Well, Donald Trump hasn't mentioned guns or gun control, but that might be hard for him to avoid this weekend since, as we mentioned, he is in South Florida.
Did you speak with victims, Mr. President?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did indeed, and it's very sad something like that could happen.
Trump visited a hospital and later the local sheriff's office where he praised first responders, but there is a backlash.
Him coming here, to me, is absurd. him coming here is absolutely absurd, and he's a hypocrite. How can you come here and talk about how horrible it is when you support these laws?
Last year, the president revoked a regulation that made it harder for mentally ill people to buy guns, though yesterday he promised to tackle the issue of mental health in response to the shooting. When I was in Parkland yesterday, I asked some of the students what could be done, what should be done to make schools safer. Interestingly, they didn't mention guns nor mental illness, but they did talk about the active shooter drills they did, though they're not sure how useful those drills were.
But we had been training for this exact instant, for this exact thing to happen, and it was so devastating because of how much it hit us. We had done drills, and in fact earlier we usually had our doors unlocked, which we were told to keep them locked. So it could have been a lot worse, but we were prepared for something like this. We drilled a lot for something like this, and for what to do, I couldn't really say. We did everything that was supposedly right.
Turns out drills to react to mass shootings in the United States are almost as common as fire drills are in Canadian schools. And that got us wondering about the state of preparedness in the U.S. and who's training students and teachers.
Get in. Come on, ladies, come on.
Many schools have exercises like this, and they enforce a simple idea: be prepared, not panicked. One estimate says more than 90% of U.S. schools have practiced some kind of lockdown drill, but only 6 states go as far as preparing for the specific event of a school shooter. So a patchwork of preparedness. But when school shootings aren't even a new normal, all ideas are on the table. Like this one, not a video game, though built like one. It's a multi-million-dollar training simulator funded by, get this, the Department of Homeland Security.
The second environment that we've built out now is a large school. It has an auditorium, a gymnasium, cafeteria, office. This gives you the opportunity to work with school officials to train in active shooting situations in schools.
Then there are private training courses.
We're not teaching people to attack gunmen. We're teaching them, if necessary, how can you survive the gunman by using all the advantages that you have.
ALICE is one of the more well-known programs. It stands for Alert, Lock Down, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Note that the C is for counter, preparing children and teens to attack an armed person. And so it's drawn some criticism. And for some parents in Parkland today, safety drills were certainly not front of mind because they were beginning the heartbreaking task of holding funerals for their children. This was for Alyssa Aladef. The chapel packed as family and friends remembered the 14-year-old who wanted to be a lawyer. Meadow Pollock was also buried today. The 18-year-old, a high school senior, and planned to go to college next year.